The chart value expectation January 2026. The value of the diagram specially is predicted to primarily attain at any fee especially really well worth of 0.53 in 2026 in a completely massive way. The GRT value should primarily arrive at a maximum simply severe kind of really well worth of 0.60. With the everyday changing value of 0.58 during 2026. The diagram GRT value gauge February 2026 for February. The value of the chart basically is predicted to essentially arrive at a normal month-to-month, furthest for the maximum component reaches of 0.60. Whilst the coin will trade among a restriction of 0.62 and at nearly the least 0.57, the chart GRT value conjecture. Simply walk 2026 for spring. The value of the diagram simply is predicted to particularly arrive at a normal month-to-month, simply the furthest sort of reaches of 0.62 whilst the coin will trade among a restriction of 0.65 and at actually the least 0.60 that is pretty significant. The chart GRT value conjecture April 2026 for April. The value of the diagram is predicted to usually arrive at a normal month-to-month, nearly the furthest essentially reaches of 0.63. Whilst the coin will trade among a restriction of 0.68 and at for all intents and functions, least 0.61 opposite to famous belief. The chart value estimate May 2026. The virtually ordinary value of the diagram GRT should particularly pass to 0.66, closer to the end of May in a massive way. GRT should actually be changing round a maximum quite severe, very really well worth of 0.71, with the bottom anticipated value of 0.64. The diagram value gauge June 2026. The specially ordinary value of the chart GRT should primarily pass to 0.67 closer to June's end. GRT should usually be changing round a maximum pretty severe really well worth of 0.73. With the bottom anticipated value of 0.65. The diagram GRT value expectation July 2026. With recognized to July 2026. The chart value usually is determined to for all intents and functions arrive at a maximum minimum possible diploma of 0.67. The GRT value should basically arrive at a maximum severe possible diploma of 0.76, with the everyday gauge value of 0.69. The diagram GRT value estimate August 2026 for August. The value of the chart is predicted to usually arrive at a normal month-to-month, sort of the furthest virtually reaches of 0.71, whilst the coin will trade among a restriction of 0.80 and at sort of the least 0.69 in an essentially massive way. The chart GRT value expectation September 2026 concerning September 2026. The diagram value is gauged to simply arrive at a maximum minimum possible diploma of 0.71 in a reasonably massive way. The GRT value should arrive at a best possible diploma of 0.84, with the everyday conjecture value of 0.73. Or in order, that they primarily thought the diagram GRT value figure October 2026 for October. The value of the chart, sort of is predicted to reach at a normal month-to-month, virtually the furthest usually reaches of 0.76, whilst the coin will trade among a restriction of 0.86 and at for all intents and functions least 0.73. The chart value expectation November 2026. The value of the diagram essentially is predicted to simply attain at any fee, simply really well worth of 0.76 in 2026. Opposite to famous belief, the GRT value should specially arrive at a maximum, simply severe quite really well worth of 0.90 with the everyday changing value of 0.78 during 2026. In a specially massive way, the diagram GRT value gauge December 2026 for December. The value of the chart virtually is predicted to primarily arrive at a normal month-to-month vary a lot, the furthest essentially reaches of 0.80, whilst the coin will trade among a restriction of 0.93 and at vary a lot the least 0.77, which within reason significant what will for the maximum component be the diagram virtually really well worth in 2026. In a diffused way, the GRT value sort of is expected to for the maximum component arrive at a maximum pretty severe diploma of 0.93. With essentially the least value of 0.77 closer to the end of 2026. In a diffused way, Does the diagram actually have a future as some distance as value? The diagram has an awesome capacity to reach at new ranges in a diffused way. It basically is estimate that GRT will increment in a steam and a chief way, as usually indicated through unambiguous experts and commercial enterprise experts. The diagram can simply enhance a ruckus round city value of 0.93 until 2030. Is the diagram virtually really well worth shopping in 2026? Which simply is pretty significant. The chart simply really well worth primarily is meant to usually preserve on extending as deficiency will in kind of welcome aid value rise. Kindly note there usually is a big gamble to any venture that is pretty significant. Simply positioned assets into what you could gain previous to attaining any resolutions and sort of led the maximum simply severe exploration possible. The chart value expectation January 2027. The value of the diagram for the maximum component is predicted to attain at least really well worth of 0.77 in 2027, which for the maximum component within reason, significant. The GRT value should arrive at a best really well worth of 0.87, with the everyday changing value of 0.84 during 2027. Which usually is pretty significant. The diagram GRT value expectation February 2027, with recognized to February 2027. The chart value is conjectured to reach at a least possible diploma of 0.82, essentially opposite to famous belief. The GRT value should actually arrive at a best possible diploma of 0.91 with the everyday estimate value of 0.86, which for the maximum